I'd like to ask Commissioner Harden if he'll lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day you've given us. Thank you, Lord, for all the many ways that you bless us. And Father, I just want to lift up all of those that have been affected by the storm on the east coast of us. And we know, Lord, Father, what they're going through with things that we've went through in years past. And Lord, with everything going on in the world, there is a lot of good that is going on. And I just pray, Lord, we can focus on the good that is going on in the middle of all the things that are bad. I pray, Lord, as we go about the business tonight, that you would help us, Lord, to do the best good that we can for our county. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to be here to serve and to be a leader in the community, and just ask all these things in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. If you would like to speak, you have a couple opportunities to speak. One, citizens to be heard either at the beginning of the meeting or at the end. Please fill out a speaker card, and you can also speak on each individual agenda item. Have any changes or to the agenda?
We have an add-on item under general business.
Okay. Is that
It's an extension of the 2015 assessment roll.
the one for Miss?
Yeah, resolution. Yes.
Okay. Any other changes?
I'm going to ask that number 12 be pulled, but I might not have anything to say on it, obviously.
Number 12 on consent.
Yep.
Any other changes? Motion to approve.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 5-0. We'll go into citizens to be heard. Mr. Greg Marr.
That was fast. Thank you all. I know at issue in the community of late is the prayer meeting that was observed on one of our local beaches. And while I'm all for prayer meetings, I think, at least for me, the issue is the particular group represented. In America, Muslims are approximately 3 million folks now, and those are some old numbers. And of those folks, 17% of them believe that suicide bombing is often or sometimes justified. 26% of 18 to 29-year-old Muslims in America have that view. 32% of Muslims in America believe that they are in direct conflict with living in a modern society. 70% of them favor an activist government. If we were talking about a 1 in 10 chance that it was going to rain, we'd be on the way to the beach or going fishing. But I think that this is a group that a significant enough margin of them represent a threat, in their own words, to our culture, to our country, to our community, that they bear scrutiny just as we would scrutinize the mentally ill having firearms or convicted felons in our community. This is not a criticism or a wish to deny people a right to worship freely. It's just a statement of fact of the world we live in today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, Miss Nikki Barnes.
Good afternoon, Nikki Barnes, 287 Rebel Road. So, I'm here for the same reason, the picture that circulated starting on Saturday. And when I originally saw a picture of individuals praying on the beach, and I thought, well, prayer is good, right? What's the big deal? Are the beaches off limits to prayer these days? And apparently, the big deal, as was just stated, is that they were, or appeared to be Muslims. Muslim in Wakulla County. Yes, there are Muslims in Wakulla County. We have quite a few American Muslims living in Wakulla County. They have been here for years. There are over 500,000 Florida residents who openly identify themselves as American Muslims, and that number continues to grow year over year. Muslims have been here in this state since its existence. They have fought in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Civil War. They helped build St. Augustine, and they are a very diverse part of Florida history. They are racially diverse, 30% being white, 23% being black, 21% being Asian, 6% being Hispanic, and 19% identifying as of a mixed race. 59% of the Muslims in Florida are between the ages of 18 and 39. There is a Muslim Democratic caucus across the state of Florida. They are our nation's fastest growing small business community, and last I heard, Wakulla was in need of some business growth. They are higher income earners. They are roughly 20% of their households claim incomes greater than $100,000 a year. So for the life of me, I don't understand why the chair of our county commission, who in the past has proudly spoke of his Florida heritage, would capture a picture of individuals praying at the beach and help create this mass negative hysteria on social media when they have roots here in the state, just like you, Commissioner. Why did you feel the need to capture them in prayer and start a hate campaign that you can't control? A hate campaign that has caused you to retreat behind your First Amendment right and not take any accountability for taking and sharing such a picture. Then the hate starts. I have seen posts on social media calling for dousing our citizens in pig's blood. I have seen posts calling for them to be hung from trees because they are not of Christian faith living in Wakulla County. And because of a picture that you captured, that you decided to share, these people now have to retreat behind their own faith, and you claim First Amendment. You're smarter than this. I know you're smarter than this. I refuse to believe that you did not know what you were doing when you shared that picture. I refuse to believe that you didn't know this was going to happen, and I refuse to believe you were just sharing another site in Wakulla County. If a hate crime happens in this county as a result of that picture, it's on your hands.
I'll be glad to discuss it with you, and I'll be glad to discuss it publicly at the appropriate time. Thank you. Next, Mr. Will Dance.
Commissioners, thank you for your time. Ms. Barnes gives a passionate speech about Islamic Americans inside Florida. And as long as they're willing to say that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land and not Sharia, we welcome them. Absolutely. I've worked with Muslims all over the world, but I've also been on the working end of an AK-47 from Muslims who have opposed to a radical viewpoint. The majority of Nazis were not, the majority of Germans were not Nazis. But yet the Nazis controlled their country. The majority of Muslims are not radical, but the radicals now control their faith. Here are the undeniable facts, gentlemen. 75 jihadi attacks on U.S. soil since 1972, costing the lives of 3,106 Americans. Sink in that in your brain. 26,000, almost 27,000 radical jihadi attacks around the world since 9/11. 60 thwarted attacks on U.S. soil by federal agents. An influx of an additional 300,000 Muslims from war-torn Syria and Iraq are coming to our shore. There are areas of France that people don't go in, not even the cops. There are areas of England that people don't go in, including the cops. And yes, if I'm raising the question as whether or not a group of military-aged Muslim men who live in Leon County, based on their vehicle registrations, are praying on our beach, well, label me whatever you want. There's a reason I'm running for sheriff. But this wasn't it. The reason I brought this up is because my daughters use that beach. My wife uses that beach. And gentlemen, under Sharia law, the cutoff shorts and T-shirts, not T-back bikinis, shorts and T-shirts that my family wears on that beach are considered offensive under Sharia. And any Muslim man may carry out what he feels is fit punishment. And I'm sorry, that type of behavior cannot happen here. Therefore, it is our duty as a community to say, how do you keep the balance of freedom of religion for the peaceful Muslims that do live here? Gentlemen, if this was a doctor and his wife and his children having a barbecue, this wouldn't be a conversation. Not for me. If this was an Arab man and his 2 boys casting nets next to Commissioner Thomas, who I'm sure would not run them out of the water, then I would not be here. This was military-aged Muslim men from out of our county. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Kessler, as much as you want to deny it, radical Islam is a problem. 9 countries in the last decade have seen the fall due to radical Islam, and we're not going to let it happen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next, Ms. Dana Peck.
I don't think I can top the disgraceful messages that have come from this microphone right now. But I was just thinking while those people were talking, the United States dropped bombs on Doctors Without Borders last week in Afghanistan and killed wounded people, sick people, men, women, and children. So should all of us be hated because of that? And I also thought somewhere in the book called The Bible, it says, judge not lest you be judged. And I'm not feeling that right now. I came up here for a different reason. Commissioner Moore, as we know, has forced for families and business owners in Wakulla County to pay $420,000 in property taxes, I guess, so he can be a richer man with his very dangerous intersection that he's building. But now he has a new scheme. He wants to make money being an oyster man. And as I understand it, he has joined the oyster class to be an oyster man, thereby preventing a real Wakulla County oyster man from having access to all the things that class is supposed to offer, such as leases in submerged lands to grow oysters, oyster baskets, oyster equipment, oyster seedling, oyster permits. All of those things he's going to take from an oyster class, keeping at least one real oyster man out. And the question is, what is he going to do with all of that once he gets it? Hire real oyster men to work for minimum wage and get out there and deal with the oysters while he sits on dry land and counts his money? This was a program that started off with a good idea, but it has declined from the moment it began. And now it is depriving real oystermen sitting over there who are struggling, the people this program was billed to be for, struggling oyster men, from making a real living wage, because he wants to get in on what can only be a scheme to make money for himself. And the real question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit silent and support Mr. Moore's scheme and prevent these men from having a living? Or are you going to do something for these men who ironically are in Mr. Moore's district and see to it that they have access to the learning tools and the equipment and the money and the permits and the leases so that they can make a living for their families as it has been made for centuries before. Generations, not centuries.
Thank you, Ms. Peck. Next, Shorty Robbins.
My name's really Kelvin Robbins, but everybody knows me as Shorty. I have oystered for about 18, 19 years in Franklin and in Wakulla. Now I oyster here in Wakulla because you travel 30, 40 miles and you can't catch but 3 or 4 bags a day. So if I do it here at the house, it's a lot easier, a lot cheaper on expense, but there ain't no oysters here now. I didn't know about this oyster class until my friend over here got in it and put my name in it, and I was supposed to be in the next class, but I was never notified. Why? Why wasn't I notified? Why wasn't it advertised down there around the county about the class?
Sir, I don't know if you're expecting an answer from us, but it's not our program, and we don't engage during this time frame.
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to say.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming tonight. Next, Mr. J. Herring.
I swore up and down I came just to hear everything. First of all, if you're making money, good job. I don't really know what's going on, but I never fought a man for trying to make money. Second of all, I know that they were Muslim guys praying down there, and I know there's a lot of people getting heated on both sides. There was a emotional thing for Nicky Barnes. Where was that emotion when we were talking about Christianity the other day? But it is what it is. First of all, it's their right to do it. They have every right to do it. And look, I don't like Islam more than anybody. I mean, I have had friends that have died at the blade of the gun. I have had a brother that took about 5 years to become the same man that he was before he went over there. I have relatives that never came home and they will never find the body. But as long as they don't practice Sharia law, they can do whatever they want to. As long as, and Mr. Dance is right, under Sharia law, his wife and his daughter could not go out there in their shorts. They would not be allowed to be on the beach with anything else. But as long as they don't practice Sharia law, let them do what they want to. I don't see what the big deal is. I just don't. And I pray to God that they're not from a part of Islam that practice Sharia law, because there's 4 parts of Islam. There's 4 different, like there's Baptist and there's, Methodist and there's Catholic and the Christian faith. There's 4 different, and 2 of them are very peaceful. One of them's all right, and the other one is from Syria, and they're horrible people. They really are. And anybody that wants to disagree with me, you know what, look it up. It ain't that hard to look up. But I will say this. When Jordan, the very country that is known for taking in refugees, that has helped us 3 different times in the last 50 years, when their king looks at the President of the United States and says, do not take in those refugees, we might want to listen. But like I said, they have every First Amendment right whatsoever to get down and pray to their guy. Because I go down there and pray to mine all the time. Just don't practice Sharia. That's all I say.
Thank you, sir. That's the last of our citizens to be heard. I'd like to recognize Mr. Alex Quintana from Representative Graham's office. Sir, would you like to say a few words?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good to see you all again. Just like to remind you all that the Congresswoman's office hours are the first Monday of every month from 3 to 5 over at Yellow County Commission office. And anyone like to let the Congresswoman know anything or need any assistance with federal agencies, we're here to help.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming down. Next, we'll go into our awards and presentations. Update regarding TCC activities by Mr. Bob Ballard.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to be here to brag a little bit about Wakulla Environmental Institute and what's going on at the moment there. Can we, is there a way that we can blow this up a little bit so everybody can see it, or no?
Run slideshow, Pat.
Yeah, hit the...
Slideshow. F5.
Here.
I was right, wasn't I?
Okay. A couple years ago, we talked about what we're going to do here in Wakulla with the Wakulla Environmental Institute. And here's a picture of the building that the architect, the director of facilities, came up with as far as the first building for the Wakulla Environmental Institute. And so how is it going? And where are we now? Let me see if I can... Okay, this is what's going on now. Actually, this is a month ago. This is an aerial drone, and one of the students that's in our environmental drone program took this picture. Again, this is a month ago, and what you see here is that wooden structure in the center is a dog trot, and it's actually working right now as a dog trot. Dog trots with Florida cracker style buildings brings in outside air, funnels it through the building, and actually creates almost a natural air conditioning type thing, if you're familiar with a Florida cracker style. On the left is where the classrooms are. On the right is where the administration section of the building is. This is 9,350 square feet. And since this picture was taken, the roof has been, it is totally dried in now, and drywall is going in on the building. As of Sunday, when I last visited, the standing seam metal roof was going on. You might notice on Highway 319, we have the curbs have been put in, and the road base is going on. If we have any luck at all with weather, we might get the first layer of asphalt on the road going in. This is an exciting project. Up, let's see, is there a, oops, uh-oh. Go back. Up toward the top of the picture is where the parking lot's going to be. That's where the solar panels are going to be. The solar panels are going to provide more energy for this building than it will use, so we'll have the meter running backward. In a couple of weeks, the cistern will be installed. That cistern will hold about 2,500 gallons of water. It will be used to flush toilets. It will have 2 outside restrooms, because this site will also be used as a trailhead for the Capital City to the Sea Loop Trail. The walls, I am so excited about the walls, and I really had a hard time dealing with the architects on this because they had never done this before, and I got a sample. Mr. Chair, if I may, would you guys hold this for a second? That is the wall.
ICF.
ICF, which is the center is filled with cement. The outside is sandwiched by styrofoam. It is very, very well insulated. Also, makes this building extremely strong. Extremely strong.
That's insulated concrete form, by the way.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you wouldn't want to throw that, because you will kill somebody with that. This building can be used. We believe it's if we had a Category 5 in this area of this region, this building will still be standing. And so if we ever do have an emergency that this building is needed, it will be used for the citizens of Wakulla as you deem necessary, unless it's taken over by somebody of higher authority. But we're really excited about this. It is a very strong, soundproof building. This is a very, very exciting feature of this project. So that's kind of what's going on. Let me show you the inside. This is almost kind of like a cathedral on the inside. This is the dog trot that will not be will not have conditioned air in this section. What you see there is the fireplace going up. It'll have a fireplace both on the inside of this building and a fireplace on the outside of this building, a log burning fireplace, much in the tradition of Wakulla Springs Lodge. This building will be packed with LED lights and all sorts of, the wind turbine I think goes up next week. All sorts of different issues that we can put in to make this one of the most interesting, certainly the most efficient building in this county. And we will have panels on the sides of these walls that will show what's going on at any one time. For instance, how much energy is being produced by the wind turbine, or how much energy is being produced by the solar panels, how much water is in the cistern, and all those kind of things. So this is kind of a living, breathing building. These windows in this building actually open up, both on the top and the bottom, like we used to have when we were growing up. And so even if all the power was out, this still will be a very comfortable building to occupy. So with that, let me step off this for a second, and let me talk about one other thing, the oyster aquaculture program. Right now we have 1 million oysters growing, 800,000 growing in Wakulla County, off in Wakulla, the Wakulla Bay area, and about 200,000 growing in Franklin County. The second class of students has started of 10, and we added one more student, which was Commissioner Moore. He has paid his own way into it, so he is not bumping anybody out. Anybody who wants to pay their own way to get in, and any person that is on the waiting list, if they wanted to pay their own way, they can pay their own way. Any of you commissioners want to pay your own way in, you're welcome to do that. We want to get as many people in as possible. We can only we only have enough money to do 10 a program, 10 a year. To pay for it, and then they pay us back through the oyster aquaculture program. One of the exciting things that we're witnessing out in Wakulla is the 800,000 oysters that the students have going on there. We planted those 800,000 oysters July 14th. About 20% of those oysters right now are 3 inches. It's the fastest growing oysters I've seen anywhere in the world. NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration came down a couple of weeks ago and was doing some water quality sampling and whatnot to observe how much quality the oysters are cleaning the water, because they believe that it's underestimated. They saw the size of these oysters, and they heard when they were put in, and they can't believe the growth that we're having here. This is an outstanding place to grow oysters, and there's some of the finest tasting oysters on the planet. So we're really excited about that. And for the next class, if anybody wants to get in and pay their own way, they're welcome to do that, and we're excited for as many people to get in as possible, but we can only handle 10 per class. With that, I'd like to open up any questions that you may have with what's going on with Wakulla Environmental Institute.
You kept referring to a dog?
Dog trot.
Dog trot, T-R-O-T?
Yes. Dog trot is a type of architectural design that in the 1800s, 1700s, when you built a log cabin, you would have typically a sleeping quarters on one side, maybe a kitchen on the other side, and a breezeway in between. And that breezeway would funnel air in and make it feel cooler than what really was the outside temperature. So at 91, the other day it was 91 degrees outside, and I was standing in the dog trot, and it felt like it was 80 degrees in there because of that fast-moving breeze that was going through there. So it's kind of a natural form of air conditioning.
In Smith Creek, we just call it a breezeway. I guess some architect come up with a different
back in the
term for it.
In the 1800s, they called it a dog trot.
Because, Randy, the dogs could go in the front door and trot all the way out the back door. That's called a dog trot.
There you go.
And it just happened to be a breezeway.
Okay. Well, I'd like to ask a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
So, thanks for the presentation, Bob. Really informative. But we all want this Wakulla Environmental Institute and the TCC oyster aquaculture venture to be successful and not go the way of a prior oyster venture in our county not too long ago called Pristine Oysters that went bankrupt. And you know, it was more than a decade ago. I was invited to TCC to see some aspects of the health educational program that was actually going on and being developed at the same time. I thought the program was innovative, I thought it was, right on the mark, and it was cutting edge, even though the materials they had to work with had to be sort of piecemeal together. And it was a success then, and it's still a success now. And so, that's what we hope this oyster program will be. I have a couple of questions, and the first is, did you, before you started this program, and before you opened the class up to student investment, did you do an economic analysis of the project for its viability?
No.
No? Okay. So I guess what worries me then is it's like a big business venture, and without having a feasibility study on the economics, and that's worrisome. So I don't know if you plan on doing one, but it seems like that should be part of a model that should be worked through.
And we were, the reason this started was because we got a phone call from an oysterman in Wakulla County, and said that the oyster industry has collapsed and we need your help. And literally the next day I went to the president of TCC and I said, what can we do to help? Because that's what we're here for. And so we came up with, right there on the spot, this idea of a micro loan to give them all the equipment and everything to start their own business. And we thought at that time that they'd probably be able to get 25 cents per oyster. Right now, the oysters that we're growing are selling for 50 cents an oyster, and we've got somebody that wants to take everything that we're growing. So it's, even though we haven't done an economic feasibility study on this, this is far outstripping our wildest imaginations on how successful this is becoming. Our biggest problem right now is Commissioner Moore has heard in class, and Commissioner Moore is a good student in class. He's perfect attendance and really interested in what's going on with this program. Our biggest problem is the oysters are growing so fast that we're not prepared for it. I mean, they are really taking off. This water off of the coast of Wakulla County is perfect for oysters. And so what we thought 25 cents an oyster 2 years ago, we're just totally blown away with getting 50 cents, and they're ready to buy as many oysters as we can produce. So we're really excited about that.
So you have contracts? Do you have contracts?
We have a handshake with that distributor that said, I'll take them. And every time we give him the oysters, which we'll give another set of oysters to him on Friday, he immediately writes us a check. And if he doesn't want to buy them, then somebody else will.
And I only have one more question, but since you've gone down that line,
sure.
Who is actually selling to us? Is it WEI that sells to the fisheries, or what's happening there?
No, right now where these oysters are, we've got an agreement with somebody in Franklin County who owns a lease, and they actually sell the oysters to a distributor. By law, we have to do it a certain way. And so those are sold to a distributor, and then the distributor sells it to restaurants and that sort of thing.
My second question actually goes to what the oysterman here, oysterman spoke to, is like, how has WEI reached out to the oystermen? Because, the program, I thought, was this promise to the local oystermen that we're going to, as you said, we're going to help you. So it seemed to be that it was your intention to help these fellows, and then I guess I'm hearing some concern that the actual class composition might not be oystermen.
We believe that, and what we found to be true, is because this is this has never been done in the state of Florida before. We're pioneers. The students are all pioneers in this, and they've worked very hard to get to this point, very hard. Everybody has brought something to the table that has been important, and we've got oystermen that have brought very strong skills with oysters to the table, but we've also had people that have helped engineer and invented different things to help build the oyster cages. For example, when Australia, where we buy our cages from right now, saw the contraption that we use, the template that we use to assemble the cages, it was so good that they asked if they could borrow the design that our students came up with. And it wasn't an oysterman that came up with the design, it was somebody else that wanted to get into the program. And it was, we have a good mix of oystermen in there and others that are bringing something to the table. Everybody's bringing something to the table. In this class, we have somebody that is a marketer that is helping us market this product, not just in Wakulla County, not just in North Florida, but actually all the way to China. So we're looking to, when we have 5, 10, 20 million oysters, we need to market this around the world. And so we need to have people in the class that are going to be able to help us get to the next level. So it's making the program stronger by having a diverse group in here to work on this program. We have not advertised this program at all. We've had people come to us, and if they're willing to work hard and stick to it, you can do very well with this program.
You know, I don't want to belabor the point, and I just want to clarify whether these oyster people over here are correct, and I thought it was to help the oystermen and to get them into class. And how many oystermen do we have in the class now, in this new class?
About half, but of 10, probably half. But some of them are that are not oystermen are still from Wakulla County. So we're here to help, you know, Wakulla County as much as we can in the region. But my main concern is Wakulla County.
So is mine. I wish you well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Above your 10 students in a normal class, how many can you accommodate in a class, say if they also wanted to pay their way in?
Probably 20.
You could double the size of your class.
I could double, maybe even 25 if but it's expensive. It's $15,400 of equipment and leases and that kind of thing to get into the class. That's what we're paying per student. And but we could probably go up to 20, 25. But we can only afford to pay for 10 at a time.
So if somebody wanted to pay their own way, basically $15,400 is what they got to pay.
Absolutely. And anybody that is asking, hey, how can I get in? And I get probably if I had a phone call this morning. If I get a phone call with that, I always mention that there is another way in. There's a 6-year waiting list right now, but there's another way in.
So the Environmental Institute can pay for up to 10 people.
Up to 10 people.
And then if someone else pays their way, that they could tentatively be an 11th student, if they pay their own way.
There can be a 25th student if they want to pay their own way.
How many students are in the current class?
11.
Okay.
I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I think these guys may want to get added to that list.
And they may be added to the list. I don't have the list with me, but a lot of people who think that they're in the next class, it turns out that they weren't. They were in class 3 or whatnot, or class 4, which is, down the road. But everybody seems to think that they're in the next class, and I go by the order of when I got the call.
We don't seem to realize this yet, but this program, for every person in the class, there'll be another person and a half will be support of that person in the class. The person in the class also has to have a boat. We'll look back 5 years from now, and there'll be 10 years from now. This quite possibly will be the largest employer in the county. And it will not stop at that 5-year period. It will continue to grow so far as they can obtain leases for the oysters. The people who come down from Canada, they taste the oysters and they say they're the best. We can produce these oysters in 9 months, and it takes them 3 years to produce the same oyster in Canada. They have to chop fish to get the oyster. This is basically jobs. It's part of Wakulla Institute as to what they do. It's just going to be a big industry and as far as the coast, most likely the jobs that will be obtained will pay more than the oystermen right now are earning. I would say without a question, the jobs that will be had will pay more than what they're making now in the oysters. Apalachicola's oyster industry has bombed out, and when it will come back, there's no way of knowing. Chesapeake Bay, 99% of their oysters are gone. You could almost say we have sweet water. Our water in Spring Creek is absolutely the best water you can find. It's almost pollution-free. So it's just an unbelievable opportunity for Wakulla County, and I wanted to see how the process worked. So.
And Commissioner, if I may, I am now this class. I am teaching this class, and actually I'm teaching it free of charge. I believe in this so much that, and that this is going to be so helpful for Wakulla that this is just important to me. And half the time, I certainly wear a wetsuit more than I wear a tie in Wakulla now, and both Saturday and Sunday I've been dealing with the Wakulla students in 6 hours in the water on Sunday. This is a big deal, and we're not going to stop, and this is just until this is hugely successful.
For the standpoint of these individuals being able to get in the program, you're available to get into the program. I met with a banker last week who finances farming. Farming is their deal to finance farming. This is farming. So you have the opportunity to get right in here also. There's nothing to say that you can't. They have a class starts once a year. So the next class that comes up, as many as you who want can get into that class. You have to go through your banker, to do that. But you can get in this class, and whatever you do, whatever you can get together, sell your car, sell your house, whatever, but find the money to get into this program, because it is going to be good for the future. It will change your life. It absolutely will do that. It absolutely will do that. So.
Mr. Moore, you're so wrong. Half of us lost our houses because of this damn water thing.
Sir,
You said
John. Bob, with a 6-year waiting list, there's any plans to expand the program? So if you could have a shorter waiting list?
When we went to the legislature, I asked for $600,000 for this, so I could have 20 students a year instead of 10. They gave me half of that. If they ever decided to give me more, we could certainly expand that to 20 students, and that would be my hope.
Demonstrated is Hosley involved in this? Have you demonstrated the return on the investment for the community, for the legislature? That's always what they like to see.
I thought he said there was no economic fiscal feasibility study done.
No, but the checks are rolling in now. I mean, we're getting checks from a seafood distributor now, every week.
You've had some success stories from past graduates. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I will actually see Representative Bashir's at the end of this month, and I'll have a conversation with him.
So the question was whether there's success from past students. Was that your question?
Showed successes from students that have been in the class and are now producing oysters and making money.
We're taking oysters right now to market.
I understand that, but you could take, I don't know how many oysters it takes to make a living, and I would caution the citizens out there not to sell your house and not to sell your car or whatever to do this. I mean, don't overextend yourselves no matter how good this sounds, especially since there's been no economic feasibility study here. And I don't know, just taking, I don't know the numbers, Bob, but taking X number of oysters to market and selling them doesn't give you an annual living. And so what's the annual living of the past graduates?
Sure, and we're just in the stage where we're just starting to sell these oysters. Let me give you a few numbers that are some facts that are going on right now. A lease can hold, one person's lease can hold 1 million oysters. Okay, say you get 90% survival of your oysters, and we believe that if they're tended to correctly, 90% is very, very realistic. And let's assume that you can sell them for what they're selling for right now, 50 cents a piece. That's $450,000 worth of gross income. It costs about to fully utilize that lease about $150,000 to get that fully up and running if you're doing the work yourself with you and your spouse, let's say. If those numbers hold true, and those are the numbers I've given you are the facts. If those numbers hold true, that's pretty good return on your investment.
Is anybody actually doing that today, though?
Well, the students, they have not gotten permission from Department of Agriculture to put in their polls yet, and actually those cards should be received this week or next week. So you'll start seeing those polls go in, and you'll start seeing those leases go up. I do know of one person that is starting to fully utilize his lease, and as soon as they get spat, they will be starting to grow 1 million oysters on their lease this year. Now, the problem is that we've got to get spat. We use triploid oysters, and so we're relying on Mother Nature and science to spawn those oysters. So we've got right now an order for 3 million oysters to go into this into Wakulla County from former students.
So the students actually, I'm confused. You're saying that students don't have the permission yet to put their poles in the water, so they're not growing it?
Right now they're growing their oysters on WEI lease right now. And they have applied for and received their leases. They just don't have the cards yet because they just received the money for that. And it takes a little while for the Department of Agriculture to process it. We've heard that those cards to identify you as the leasee for that particular lease are in the mail now. Okay.
Further questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Ballard.
Okay,
appreciate you coming. All right. Next, we have the consent. Move consent. Now, I have one citizen that asked to speak on an item that we did not pull, and she's not in the room.
Anybody got a second me?
On the consent? I'll second the consent.
Okay. No first and second. Any further discussion?
What was the item that was requested today?
Item number 4.
I'll pull it.
She's not.
I'll pull it and see if she comes back in.
Well, we've already approved the agenda, though.
Okay. All right.
We've got a first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 5-0. Howard, I believe you pulled item number 12.
Yeah, I just would like an overview of what are the changes that, roughly, that are coming down the pike with this advertisement.
In general, this amendment to the code will bring consistency with our land development code and the Florida statutes as it relates to community residential homes.
So that whatever's in the Florida statute, we don't want to be contrary to.
That's correct.
Right. And so these changes will do that. I did speak during the pre-meeting that there are some things that I'm concerned about, and I'll get together with you during this coming week.
Sure.
Okay. So a motion to approve.
Second. We have a first and second. We have one citizen, Ms. Renee Miller.
There seems to be a lot of holes in the proposed changes, and that it leaves out a large segment of the population that still needs help. Now, Ms. is talking about it being in line with Florida statutes. That's very vague, and it's not 100% cohesive. The Florida statutes do not prohibit other community-based care homes. For instance, Leon County has a very different code for helping people who are indigent. As the way it stands now, anybody who wants to help someone who's just homeless or indigent or has a background, they're not going to be able to do that, because not everyone falls in line with being licensed under Agency for Healthcare Administration, or not everybody's an elderly person, or everybody is suffering from some form of like deformity or disability or mental handicap. But that's all that you're leaving in the county code. So what is the county going to do to help other indigent citizens, not directly from the prison, but our citizens work there? They buy houses here, they buy food here, they buy clothes here, they send their kids to school here. They're taxing citizens. So we make money off, so to speak. What is the county going to do to help them when they're released? I really have a heart and I have a burden for this. And it's okay to change things, but you can't just leave out a whole segment of the population that really need help and shut people down that want to help them because some people are afraid or are prejudiced. Please use your power and your money and your influence for good, not evil.
Thank you, ma'am. Further discussion? Hear none. And I'd just like to point out that we're not approving or disapproving anything tonight other than to put it on the agenda and bring it back for a later approval. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0. Next, we'll go into general business, item number 14.
Yes, Chairman. This agenda item requests board approval of a letter of support to the Florida Department of Transportation regarding the addition of
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any citizens? No. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. We have an add-on item regarding our tax collector.
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any citizens? Further discussion?
Go home, Cheryl.
Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Good night, Miss Ola.
Thank you for your service.
Good job, Cheryl.
That ends our general business. No public hearings. Planning and zoning, item number 8.
Mr. Chairman, this is application for final plat FP 1504 for Piney Grove subdivision. This is a quasi-judicial item.
6 o'clock.
We have to wait 7 minutes.
Very good.
You want to go into the commissioner agenda items then?
Do any
They're all
of these items?
quasi-judicial.
All of them are. Okay. Want to go ahead and skip to the commissioner agenda items? Okay. Item number 11, that's you, Howard.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, this agenda item directs staff to amend C2 zoning district to allow for a similar conditional use as was recently included in the AG zoning district as a conditional use that we addressed prior. And if you see on the attachment, there are 2 things that are underlined. Let me get to that. And let's see if we can get there. No. Anyway.
Second.
Okay. Is that a second to my motion?
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Very good. Any citizens on tab number 11? Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
See that, Brandon?
We've got a few more minutes there. County Attorney, any additional items?
Nothing that we haven't already spoken about.
County Administrator?
Nothing at this point in time.
All right. We could go to
Now let's just wait.
citizens to be heard or a final discussion item.
Why don't we take a bathroom break?
Or we'll take a break. We will reconvene at 6 p.m.
Explain why we're doing this.
Quasi-judicial, then we have it in our policy that we do not start those before 6 p.m. That way folks are allowed time to get here from work. And so we're going to wait on the clock to...
Also remind them not to talk if you're talking to commissioners, not to talk to 2 commissioners at one time.
Yes, very good. Keep us out of trouble with the sunshine. There we go. We will reconvene the meeting. We'll go back to planning and zoning, item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is application for final plat FP 1504 for the Piney Grove subdivision. This is a quasi-judicial item. Therefore, in accordance with Section 24.01 of the Code, each commission member needs to disclose any ex parte communications they may have received from any interested party, their representatives, lobbyists, or other third parties concerning this application. Commissioner Harden?
I haven't had any for this one, no, ma'am.
I've talked to both the person who's petitioned and some of the residents.
None. I just told him Mike a few minutes ago.
None.
Okay. Anyone who's going to provide any information on this item, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Summer?
This is an application for final plat SP 1504 for the Piney Grove subdivision.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Do we have any citizens? None. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 9.
This is an application for a change of zoning, R15-04, concerning the Wildwood Country Club. It's also an application for an amendment to the PUD that is governing this property. This is the second of 3 public hearings that you're going to have on this, so all you're going to be doing today is having a public hearing. You will not take a final vote until the next item. Therefore, we'll do our quasi-judicial disclosures before your vote.
You said the second of 3?
Yeah, Planning Commission and then 2 before the board.
You said your, I thought you meant us.
You as in the county.
Okay.
Gentlemen.
Do we have a motion to hold the public hearing?
So moved. Do we need a motion to hold the public hearing?
You usually do for the...
Second.
Okay, first and second, and we do have citizens to speak. Ms. Wendy Harley.
Good evening.
Evening.
How you doing? Good. I own the property located right next door to basically to the driving range where I guess that this disaster is going to happen with 70 units of a RV park. I've seen all the different RV parks as y'all have in this county, and basically I don't want that right next to my house. I think it's going to create a lot of noise, lights, traffic going in and out. I haven't even seen where the entrance of this is going to occur, besides going through the parking lot of the golf course, so I'm not even sure where that's going to be. If that's the entrance, then I don't even see how an RV could get in there, and then brings me to mind that if you have 70 units of a RV park there right along that driving range and along the back side of the people that live on Lonesome Road, which actually were grandfathered in before the golf course was even there, that you're going to have all this noise going in and out of there, lights, generators, and I've seen what the county has produced in RV parks here, and I don't see that I want to live next door to that kind of situation, and I'm just real concerned about you guys, approving something that is, going to cause a whole bunch of controversy in this county and just be pretty much a lot of trashy looking, mess over there. And I realize it's going to be on the sewer and all that, which is fine, but still, if you have that there, then once that's approved, why can't they just go ahead and close the next 9 holes and build some condos, apartments, and everything else? It just seems like just a graduating step from one thing to the next. And I've owned the property for a long time, my family, and we're just real concerned about what is going to end up happening there in the long term, not just on the short term, oh, this is what we want to do and these are the people we want to attract, but really, I mean, look around. I'm sure that the people that have RV parks here right now wanted to attract, $1 million home, RVs too. But look what happened, and then those people are living there more permanently, and a lot of noise, a lot of, lights and commotion going on there. I'm just extremely concerned about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, Mr. Ray Alexander.
Hi there. Ray Alexander, 35 Fairway, and that's a home on the golf course. I just recently bought it. My wife and I found out that there was going to be an RV resort there, and by the way, we are RVers, so I'm all for it. The kind of RV park, and I did talk to the owner, is going to be a high-end RV park, no permanent residents. This is a park where people are going to come with big units. When my wife and I travel around the country, we also like to golf. That's why we bought a home on the golf course. We looked for places like this where we could camp and golf at the same time. It's a high-end thing. You're going to be drawing a lot of people from around the country. Not only that, they're going to spread their purchases around the county. They're going to look for good seafood restaurants and so on. We love Wakulla County. We've just recently moved here from Tallahassee. We spent 40 years there, but we spent a lot of our time down here in Wakulla County, and we enjoy it. So I'm all in favor of it. I can understand why people might be against something like this, but in my opinion and what I've heard and seen, it's going to be one great addition to Highway 98, where there's a lot of top ends that do go through. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Keith Johnson.
Good evening, gentlemen. I live on 98 Lonesome Road, 92, excuse me. From my back door to the property line of the golf course is 126 feet. And you're going to put RVs in my backyard. My only question to the people who are proposing this, would you do the same thing to your property? Would you put an RV park in your backyard? There are several concerns we have. Number one, what restrictions do we have on noise? What restrictions do we have people being out in the evenings? The addition to traffic down Lonesome Road. There are currently 2 garbage trucks running to the golf course. With the addition of a RV park, are there going to be more coming down our dirt road, which is hard enough to keep smooth anyway. The other problem is, especially with the noise, we have 2 elderly couples living right beside us. Are they going to be expected to put up with noise? How many people are going to be employed at this golf course? Is there going to be 10, 20, 2 or 3? How much impact is this going to really have for our county as far as revenue? Most RVers will go out and eat. They'll go to Walmart, buy supplies, but they mainly stay with their RVs, if I'm not mistaken. As far as it being high-end, how can you tell a person with a smaller motorhome they can't stay there? How would you, how is this going to be proposed to where the people that border Lonesome Road and the golf course, we're going to be guaranteed nobody's going to be trespassing on our property? There won't be any noise after a certain amount of time because that's why we moved there. We moved there before the golf course. We moved there for one reason. It was quiet. This coming in, are there going to be restrictions on what time an RV can come in? If one comes in at 1 in the morning, RVs can be quiet, or they can be quite loud setting up. We work on RVs. We know how loud they are. We're just concerned that, is our property value going to go down? If we decide to sell our property, who's going to want to buy it with an RV park sitting 126 feet from a back door? Are there going to be provisions made to block it off to where we don't catch the noise or people coming onto our property? Which we've had people from the golf course, patrons, come on our property before. We've got posted, didn't seem to really matter. I mean, there's just a bunch of concerns here that nobody's attempted to address. We've heard nothing about how this is going to be planned, how far off the property line they're going to be. I mean, no consideration to what the people on Lonesome Road were going to be putting up with. So yes, we're very concerned, and yes, we are against it for a numerous amount of reasons. And that's basically it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Next, let's see, Stanley Dennis, is that right?
Dan Dennis. I tried to write his name there.
I live on the east side of the golf course, Lonesome Road, which I like because the trouble that what I liked, I was in favor of the golf course due to the fact that it's limited to daylight use only. And that would keep all the nighttime activity and lights and everything down. Everything turned out pretty good until a few of the choice golfers started climbing over my fence and breaking it down and just to get a few golf balls. And my vision right now, if we put a park there, the total end of the driving range is all my property. And I'm sitting there thinking about all these people come into the park and all this, and look over there and see that nice big orange tree or tangerine tree, and to be tempted. If the golfers will climb over the fence and ruin it, don't you think with the volume of people like that, they would be tempted too? Just human nature, I think. And that's the part that disturbs me is the influx of the volume of people coming in there, which if a few golfers will do it, why not when you're talking maybe 100+ people, it would just what they would do to my property. It's just human nature. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chris Russell.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
I'd have to say there's an opportunity for balance here. I definitely get both sides. Just a couple of things came to my mind on this. And first of all, let me say I don't have a dog in this fight, other than I'm a citizen of Wakulla County, and I'd like to see some economic growth. I remember 2 years ago, roughly, maybe 3 years ago, that place sat vacant, and it was an eyesore, and it was going downhill, wasn't helping any of us. In fact, I know of 2 local business folks that were looking to buy it and turn it into a mud bog. That was their idea, to do it like what they have over in Perry. And I believe that would have been allowed under the PUD. And so mud bog to RV park, I think we've come a long way on that. I saw this issue come up. My daughters are taking up golf in high school, and they were afforded an opportunity to go out there and practice. That's part of the deal. That's their home course. I've spent some afternoons out on the driving range with them, although I'm not a golfer. I've been out there with them. Now, this is straight up the truth. I've yet to see one person on the golf range that wasn't with the high school on the driving range. One person. A bucket of balls costs you $7 to $12, depending on what size you get. I haven't seen one person out there. Now, if they're going to take that driving range and add some RVs in there, and that's going to generate some revenue, well, maybe this golf course gets to stay in line a little longer. Maybe we get to have some economic growth here in this county. Something else. We have some RVs in this county that some parts that kind of skirt the system when it comes to TDC tax dollars, in my personal opinion. I've heard, I went to the P&Z hearing on this. I heard the owners say that they're not going to let folks stay there over 6 months. Well, that's great, because that's when we start losing that TDC dollars, if I'm not mistaken. So here we go, another opportunity to bring in revenue, not only for the golf course, but for the county. That alone is great. I do think that probably some dialogue between the potential, the owners and the folks on Lonesome is definitely warranted. It's hard to come behind Keith. Keith's a friend of mine. I definitely understand his concerns. The comp plan allows it. I think the site plan would work out pretty well to get some things in there that would make it mutually beneficial. Sure, we'd like to have it somewhere else, like maybe across the street, but that's not there. This opportunity is here. It's allowed. This is America, that are property owners, and it's going to help our county. I think that we ought to be looking at this in a favorable light. Thank you for your time, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you, sir. Mr. John Shuff.
Yeah, John Shuff, 87 Tupelo Drive. Yeah, I again agree with most of what Chris said. We do need to look for balance here. We do need to protect any visual or noise encroachments on the other properties. But the golf course has, as we all know, struggled with staying in business over the past years. This gives it some additional critical mass. It sounds like a reasonably good plan to me, and I think you need to vote to let it go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. David McQuarrie.
I'm David McQuarrie. I live at 58 Royster Drive. My wife and I are the ones that have presented this to the commissioners. First of all, we started across the street, and the staff advised us to go, it'd be less harm to go where we're going. Another thing, I've submitted to you with some pictures, and what those are, those first ones are some RV parks in your county, and the other ones are the ones in the adjoining counties. The first ones are, no, we're not going to do it that way, because we're going to put a deadline on how long they can stay. And the other one is if you look at the landscaping, the concrete pad, the infrastructure is how we're going to do ours. So we're not going to go down there. If you look at the first ones, and that's what we don't want, and I'm totally opposed to that. Okay, and another thing is, if you look at the pictures also of the range, you will see how thick the woods are, that you cannot even see another house. And the 129 feet, whatever he says, he's 129 feet, I guess, also from maybe a motel, too, that has people coming and going that we have no idea who they are. With mine being the expense that I'm going to be, I'm not going to be the cheapest one in the county. I mean, or even the one down, they're $35 down in Carabel. I'm going to be $40 because we're trying to totally attract golfers. We're going to give free golf with stay. So we're going to be $40, okay? So you're going to get golfers. And you're going to get people to stay here for less than 6 months and spend $1,000 a month per unit in the county. And to say, I mean, there's people in that hotel that we have no idea who they are. But, I mean, I know when I got someone coming in my place that's got a RV that's been able to qualify to buy that. We're not letting people come in with school buses and not going to be able to set up homes. They're coming in and they're camping out and they're leaving, but they can stay up to 6 months, less than whatever, 5 months and 29 days, whatever it is. But that's all I want to say.
Thank you, sir. That's the last of the citizens. We don't have the vote, but any discussion? Yes, sir, please.
Agreed that we're doing the same thing consistent with the Magnuson Hotel. The ordinance of the noise, we're putting a 10 o'clock rule that if they violate any rules at 10 o'clock, then here comes the sheriff department and we can kick them out. I'm not sitting here trying to trash up the county. We have built a very nice property that needs to be in the county back to the condition it was before the last group run it down. And so we're just trying to build this county up and bring more people to come and visit our beautiful county.
Sir, before you leave, I'd like to recommend if you heard any other concerns tonight that you know that you can help resolve, that if you will reach out to them and see if there is a way that those things can be worked out and bring that back to us.
Well, okay, the buffer thing. There's a buffer. You
don't necessarily have to do it here.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Just bring that back at our next meeting.
This may be unusual coming from me, but I'm not going to support this. Let me give you a couple of reasons why. First of all, for these people that live on Lonesome Road, and I've supported every single land use and zoning change I think that's come through this board. This one to me is different. They're going from a driving range in their backyard to an RV park in their backyard. And he may have the nicest RV park in the world, but it's still an RV park. When Wildwood was built with a PUD back in '93, they transferred all the residential density out on all the property, right, Summer?
That's correct.
Anyways, they took all the allowable units and put it into this Fairways subdivision in order to get those homes there. Now, this technically qualifies to be able to do it because it's commercial and not residential. In other words, you couldn't build one house on that 12 acres right here because there is no residential density left. But because it's commercial, they can put up to, they can put 70 spots, and those spots are going to be probably inhabited by people. So I'm not going to support it for a litany of reasons, and that's my opinion.
Further discussion?
Yes. So, to staff, the entrance is on Lonesome Road, is that correct? The proposed entrance? No.
At this time, the conceptual plan indicates that the access will be through the existing golf course access off of Highway 98 and not through Lonesome Road.
Could it change?
They could propose a change during site plan stage.
Okay. And I had some other question, and I don't have it. Okay. Well, we'll have another couple of weeks to talk about this. I think this is going to decrease property values of the existing homes that border this proposal. I think it's going to increase noise. I think it's going to increase traffic. If that entrance is on Lonesome or not, I think it's going to increase traffic down that road. I think it's going to increase disturbances and likely incidences of trespass. But I think someone made a statement. It may have been Keith, may have not been. But if this was your backyard, no matter how nice the RV park is, would you want an RV park in your backyard with the density of an RV park? And judging from setbacks that we've tried to put in place in other subdivisions, etc., throughout our county, we have not been able to take care and protect them adequately, and I don't think we're going to be protecting these people's concerns no matter what is agreed to going into this project. So I'm not going to vote to decrease their tranquility, and I'm not going to vote to decrease their property values, and I'm not going to vote for this.
I'd like to strongly encourage the applicant to get with the property owners. It only takes 3 votes to pass.
Further discussion?
No. There's no way
Sir, if you'd like to come, you're the applicant, so we will let you speak.
Information is not even accurate. We have no intentions ever. We don't even have access to Lonesome Road. All right? And Tranquility, they have Tranquility now. I mean, we have golfers out there hitting range balls, talking and drinking and doing. I mean, there's no difference in what we're asking to do. And then, anyway, I just don't understand the Lonesome Road is not an issue. We're coming through the entrance. We have no access on the Lonesome Road. We will not be going down Lonesome Road.
Let me ask you a question. The gentleman brought up the fact that he didn't know what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, where and how. Maybe talk with him that you're going to maybe put a fence between the subdivision and your property. Talk to him about the buffer that you're going to have between the property. Talk to him about the lights that will be shining a different way, that will not shine onto their property. It's a little confusing to me that we can bring something forward. I would think that we would want to sort of know what the person is going to do with his property before he brings it forward. That would help you.
Yes.
It would help the neighbors at that point. So can we possibly make a change in the way we bring something forward to where that when this gentleman, let's say, the next gentleman comes forward, that the people in the audience know what he is going to do? Right now, they don't know exactly what he plans to do.
There's no way we can do that.
No.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I agree.
Rezoning.
Yeah, there's...
It can go into the PUD amendment.
Okay, but anyway, if you will get with those folks and tell them what you intend to do, and basically, one of the critical things is lights, is how the lights...
Okay, I have talked about this. I agree with you completely, because what I'm getting is a litany of stuff that doesn't make any sense.
That's right. You talk to those.
Because
those
what's
folks.
really going on is we've already talked about the pedestals,
That's
the
fine.
dim lights. It's the lighting that we're going to have.
Talk to those folks.
Look at your pictures. There's a buffer.
Yeah.
You can't see each other.
Let me just say, if there is going to be some sort of a negotiated PUD amendment here, it would be best to get it in the actual PUD amendment that this board will approve so that it is enforceable.
Enforceable, that's right.
Very good.
I do want to say a concern that I have with this. I have been supportive of it initially, but because I was under the impression this was going to be built across the street south of 98. I was not aware until this came on the agenda that it was going to be part of the golf course. And that's maybe a changer with me. And the reason being is initially you and I had talked about it. You and I had spoke one time about this. And initially, some of the pictures that are in here are pictures that are from a neighboring RV center that is very upscale. I work down in Franklin County. I pass by that on a regular basis. That particular RV park is very upscale. So the idea of that being built into our county initially, I believe that if that scale RV center was built in our county, that it would attract upscale. But I was under the impression this was going to be built on property that was being acquired south of 98. I was misunderstood that it was going to be built on the golf course. So I've got to hold my reservations about it this time. But we still got another couple of weeks to look at this, and in that time frame, I may actually go out there and to try to lay eyes on it myself of where it's going to go.
Very good. Further discussion?
No,
ma'am. You'll have a chance to come back at the next meeting and speak. Thank you. All right. We'll go to next item, number 10.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is an application for a change of zoning, R-1503. This is a Griner's addition to remove some restrictive zoning like.
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, hold on, Gary, if you would. I'm going to step out of character yet again tonight and ask Heather to kind of give a little lengthy explanation of how we got here, because a lot of people think the county's trying to change something for this or that, but let's let her explain pretty good, Jerry. It's kind of tricky.
You recall it's been a couple of years. This was brought to you. I believe it originally came forward because a citizen had their mobile home burned down, and they were looking to replace it with a used mobile home, but one that was not less than 2 years old. And one of the restrictions, this subdivision has always been RMH1, which means mobile homes were always allowed there. But some time back, the county put additional restrictions on there to say that mobile homes could only be of a certain type and had to be less than 2 years old.
You said it's always been RMH1, so it wasn't like Magnolia Gardens. It was homes only, and then it was changed to homes and then restrictive.
Since 1985, correct.
Okay.
So this is always, since zoning went in, this has been, mobile homes have been allowed here.
Basically, Randy, it seems like we're in an era where we are now, and this just
That's what I was
corrects
trying to get
error.
her to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, and when this request came forward for the hardship from the person who had lost their mobile home, we started to look at these restrictions. We didn't really even know they were there, because if you look at the official zoning map, it just says RMH1. What these restrictions, once we looked at them, we realized the restrictions actually violate Section 320.8285 of Florida statute.
So you're saying they're illegal?
They are unenforceable.
It's illegal
yes.
for us to have these rules in place.
Yes. So that is why we're recommending that you remove them, because any restrictions based upon the age of a mobile home and other criteria are not allowed under Florida law.
Were you going to make a motion, Jerry? Were you going to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
This is, you're not going to actually vote tonight. This is because you have one more public hearing. If there's anyone here who's going to speak on this, please stand up to be sworn.
We have one speaker that filled out a card. If other folks would like to speak, make sure you fill out a card as well, in addition to being sworn.
Raise your hand. Please do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And the board will do your ex parte disclosures at the next meeting. But our recommendation is you hold the public hearing tonight, and then
That's what Jerry's motion was. I second it.
All right. Have a first and second. The first citizen, Miss Amanda Walker.
Good evening, gentlemen. I live at 8 Evans Avenue, which is part of a very large swath referred to as Griner's Addition.
It's news to us that this is in violation of Florida statute. It was not presented like that in the planning and zoning. It was essentially presented to us as, well, it's confusing because we have a few that don't have the restrictions, but we have the vast majority that do have these restrictions. Understand, quite a few of us here have bought our homes since 2006. Most of us have also taken a bath on our homes since 2006. My house is currently worth half of what I paid for it. So now I'm sitting here and they're going, okay, well, we can't have these restrictions. We have to remove them, which means you're talking single wides, older mobile homes, everything like that. I understand if we are in violation of statute, but at the same time, we need to find a balance because most of us from Griner's Edition bought our homes understanding that the 30-year-old mobile home wasn't going to get moved onto the property. A single wide, brand new or not, wasn't going to be moved on the property because the simple fact is all there's going to do is depreciate our values even more than they already have been. And a single wide, last time I checked, at no point in history has ever gone up in value. It is simply depreciated. So if we're in violation of Florida statute, let's find some way to fix that, but let's not do it at the cost of all of our property values, because at some point, I would like to actually sell my home for at least something close to what I paid for it.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Gary Eddington.
Good evening, Gary Eddington, 16 Evans Avenue. I'm a homeowner and a resident of this Griner's Edition here. I thank a couple of you gentlemen for getting back with me, and this has kind of been a confusing issue, and you know, try to wade through this. I did ask Ralph this afternoon. I had a little bit of conversation with him, but I basically reiterate what Amanda said. We've talked about this before in our neighborhood. But I would like to at least point out one thing in listening to the conversations for the application for the RV park down at Wildwood Country Club. Mr. Kessler did state that this would, of course, decrease the property values for all the homes in the neighborhood and increase in disturbance. Our concern is that if an older single home, single wide gets in there on some of the properties now that are in a flood zone that you can't get a mortgage insurance on without buying flood insurance, they'll drag them in, rent them for $400, $450 a month, and that doesn't necessarily give you the best clientele in the neighborhood. And so I ask the commission to consider this and not approve it. Planning and zoning agreed with us a couple weeks ago, and I would hope that you do the same. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Attorney, if we don't approve your product, then we will be in violation of Florida law.
Yes, Florida is very specific. I mean, I can read you just one sentence. It's a fairly long statute, but it says no local jurisdiction shall prohibit siting or resiting of used mobile homes based solely on the date the unit was manufactured. So your 2-year limitation is definitely not
and it
enforceable.
refers to square footage.
And
too.
for you folks, I basically, when people ask me for help or whatever, I say I'll do anything I can for you within the law, and I would do that. But what can we do if we're not within Florida law?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be voting for this simply because we need to be in compliance with the law. What I would encourage the neighbors to do is to do the same thing Magnolia Gardens did. They got a petition together, right, Summer?
That's correct.
They were zoned for mobile homes also. If they would get together and, you know, show a majority maybe of the people out there, I'd certainly vote to change it to homes only, no mobile homes. I'd vote for that.
I would support that also.
Now, I talked to Randy Nelson, who owns at least 20 lots in Griner's. He said he would support it 100%. In fact, he has removed at least 4 or 5 mobile homes and replaced them with site-built homes. Y'all know where Roosevelt lives? That street right there. And built some really nice products in there. I talked to a couple other guys that have lots in there that are builders, and they're building homes in there right now in Griner's. They're not putting in mobile homes, right, Summer?
That's correct.
Most of what's being built is homes. So if we change it to whatever zoning districts for homes only, they could keep the mobile homes if they have one. And a big concern for me and Jason Wester, who's a builder I talked to, was that if somebody's mobile home burns down, can they replace it with another mobile home, which I would certainly think they should be able to. And there is a path forward with that, right?
That's correct.
They could request a variance before the board, just like the Hobby Brothers did the other day with that trailer, right, Summer? That was in a commercial zoning district?
Well,
That's right.
yes.
And so anyway,
Summer's over there.
I would strongly
Yeah.
encourage the guys in Griners to get together, and if they can get some sort of consensus, I would certainly support changing it to homes only.
And I would support your support.
Good. We all support each other.
And I had a question earlier today about, from a citizen of what the restrictions are. So if you guys are okay, let's just go through that real quick so they can see what those restrictions are. The first one is only double-wide mobile homes or single-family dwellings shall be allowed in the following, and it's a little different depending on which block.
That's the really bad part about it. If you're in Block 10, Lot 6 through 26, what about Lot 5 in Block 10?
Right.
What can it have on it? I think that's what's in violation of Florida statutes.
So the next thing, mobile homes identified above shall have shingle roofs, minimum 40 square feet, front porches, decks. We can put restriction in everything. Please,
And
Fred.
even then, you're restricted. You can only put in things that deal with any architectural or aesthetic requirements can only deal with the siding and the roofing materials.
Right.
So everybody could have hardy boards. So theoretically, if we said you could only have vinyl siding, if you want to build a house with brick, you couldn't do it.
Correct.
I guess we could say hard. I've never seen a brick single wide, but I guess you could. But anyway.
Well, and then the next one, mobile homes shall not be older than 2 years old. County attorney already read the statute that specifically prohibits us from making that decision based on age. Mobile homes as identified above shall not be older than 4 years, again.
And this is in Section 2. There's a Section 1 and there's a Section 2. Section 2, you can have a mobile home shall not be older than 4 years.
Right.
And in Section 1, it shall be not older than 2 years.
Right. And both of those are not allowed by state law.
The restrictions they used to have in Magnolia Gardens about having to have a certain skirting and having, remember that we just went ahead and changed it to homes only. I really think that's a good option personally. It would protect their property values, maybe even increase them. And homes is what's being built in there anyway.
I think it's a great solution. Keep in mind, if everyone agrees and comes forward and said, we want that homes only going forward with a provision that if it burns down, they could potentially replace it to as good or better than what they have, then we can consider that. The dangerous thing is if you come forward with that idea and there are folks that are opposed to it, then we're back to the same thing.
Well, now we're back to a vote, though, are we not? We're back to a vote. That doesn't mean if there's 100 properties, partials, and you can't get 100%, that doesn't mean that we can't approve 65 of you going forward. You follow? We can. It's still a vote. And basically, if they're building homes in there and you have a modular home or whatever, the stick-built homes are going to improve the values of everything. So it'd be very difficult for somebody to say, "Hey, I don't want to improve my value. Don't do this because, So
I'll volunteer Summer if you guys are interested in doing that. Talk to Summer. She knows exactly how Magnolia Gardens did it, and if you need help at some political somebody to bring it forward, you can call me. He's got my number. He left. Never mind.
Very good. Further discussion?
Does that sound good to you?
All righty. That ends item number 10. Let's see. We've taken care of Commissioner agenda items. County Administrator.
I'm good.
We already did him. We already did the attorney.
Second citizens to be heard, Mr. Chris Russell.
Thought he did the first.
No.
Hush. Randy Merritt, just hush. Matter of fact, I'm going to strike off what I was fixing to say.
Go in about how I get treated up here.
Yes. The first thing on my list was tonight I thought y'all were very civil. There was opportunity for some contention, and I thought y'all showed great leadership tonight, which is great for our county. So thank you. Also, it was very refreshing to see we've had, and we just got through them, a couple of potentially contentious P&Z items, but even the community here, everyone was civil and letting each side of it, and that was great. We need more of that. And what I walked away hearing is obviously on the Griner thing, that's a little different. But what I heard from the golf course thing is, hey, I understand there's some concerns. We're going to address them. We're going to look at them. We're going to come back. We're going to see what we can get to if there's common ground. That's really what we should always be doing. So that looks very good for our county. I know we had a couple of camera crews here tonight coming down to find the bad in our county. But tonight we had a lot of good. We had a lot of good civil discussion. We had a lot of back and forth, and give and take. That's what it's about. You know, let's find that middle ground and move forward. Last but not least, you know, I've come to y'all for years, and I've always called out, you know, if you're doing a great job or bad job with the county staff. You know, David Edwards as an example of his 5-year plan, which I highly applaud. You know, that's great. Look where it's gotten us. You know, I'm not always going to agree with him, but my gosh, it's a progress. On that note, I don't know if you found a planning director yet, but is it a done deal?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Chris, that happened a month ago.
Full-time hired?
Yeah, where
I
you
thought
been?
that was
He's been
interim.
hanging out with the folks.
She's there, but we're gonna.
Yeah, I was going to say, because 30 minutes ago that wasn't true, so I'm just saying.
She
Congratulations,
got her
Summer. Hey, she did a great job when I was on the planning commission, and the one thing that you always found with Summer, and the thing we always heard about the applicants coming forward, was she was customer friendly. They didn't always get the answer they wanted, but at least she tried. So congratulations,
Sunshine
Summer.
up your pants leg.
She will, blow? She will?
No, they don't.
Okay. And once again, thank y'all tonight, and thank you to the citizens of the county that came here to discuss different issues and kept it civil. So, Summer, congratulations.
Thanks.
Old news, Chris.
7-9. Mr. Larry Roberts.
Yes, sir, Larry Roberts, South Chappie. And first of all, I support Summer Strickland.
Very good.
Me too.
Back to the oyster business. There are some things that were discussed this evening that I don't quite understand, and perhaps, I know we don't have any back and forth on citizens to be heard. Maybe at some time somebody will straighten me out. There are 5 people in a class, or 10 people in a class. Half of them, quoting Mr. Ballard, are oyster people, and half of them are other citizens. Actually, there's 11 in there. There's in this particular class. Mr. Moore is paying his own freight. One thing that I don't understand, when you go to the school and put your money in this school, does the lease come with that when you complete the school? My real question is, does these non-oyster people being involved in the class prevent these oyster fishermen that really need jobs from getting involved in the oystering business? Does it in any way hurt their opportunities? And I really feel like, regardless of Mr. Ballard's explanations, that it does. But then again, I may not know. I would hope that you guys, unless I'm totally off the page, look into this a little further. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's our last citizen to be heard. Discussion items, start with Commissioner Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have 2 that are listed and one I want to go to. First one is just an announcement of a town hall meeting, October 13th. It's next Tuesday. You have more than 3 minutes to speak at the town hall meeting, and it'll begin at 7 p.m. here in this room. There's no agenda. It's just the citizens' concerns and an opportunity to have one of your commissioners address them and further your issues, if possible. The second thing is on policies and procedures I labeled it gift to non-governmental entities or charitable entities or nonprofits. It seems like we have a policy that we haven't been following. I'm not clear on how that policy applies to all or specific, some or all petitioners that come to ask for, and I think that we need this clarified, and I'd like to have staff address this issue.
I read it. I agree.
Well, we're already working on that.
Okay, good. So the next issue that I'm going to be speaking to is what took place earlier in the meeting with people getting upset, apparently, with people of non-Christian faith exercising their religion. You know, we're Americans, those people are Americans. Some of them are professors at our university. Some of them own businesses here in town. They're part of our community. They may not live in Wakulla County. Some of them may. I don't know that for a fact. But they're Americans. They're Floridians. And we don't have any reason to judge them and expect to call them out and ask for an explanation of what their intentions are, because they're of the ages between whatever the ages are supposed to be of military age. I don't see us going to white supremacist groups and demanding of them what their intentions are. And I think there are a lot of people in white supremacist groups that claim to be Christian. I'll go back there for a second, but we had a discussion. I voted against it. In God we trust. And I didn't vote against God, but I voted against in God we trust, having God in our government. People here tonight spoke against the theocracy. Okay? Dangerous thing. I agree. It's dangerous no matter what the religion is that you put into your government. And so I asked this board, what does it mean when we say in God? Whose God is that? Is that the Christian God? Is that the Jewish God? Is that the Hindu God? Is that the sun God? Whose God is that? And when we make a prayer, an invocation in this room, who are we praying to? Are we praying to a general God or a specific God? So I don't know if any of you want to answer what you think that word God up there means in context of our government. If you want to say something, please do.
Not stepping in that.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So the next thing is, I received some, I guess some of us, and I'll receive some postings of and if you haven't seen them, I'm going to hand you each a copy of things that went up on a, I don't know if I don't do social media, so if they went up on a Facebook page, I don't know about that.
I think I've seen them.
Okay, and yes, and so my question is, when stuff like this is going on, there was a picture that was posted, Commissioner Thomas, and that's all well and good, but then when the comments start bubbling, and some of those comments are not very pretty, I think that we all have an obligation to step in there and say, hey, this is America. These people have the right, not these people, these Americans have the right to do what they want to do. And if they weren't Americans and they're visiting our country, they still have the right in our country. Because that's something special about our country, that it is a country that separates religion from government. So in the past, under discussion of In God We Trust, we had statements being made, well, our country is a Christian country. And if you want to rewrite history, then you can make that statement. But if you go back into history, and maybe the people that were closest to the history in, I don't know, 1797, that's pretty close to the founding of our country, and we have President of the United States who signs a treaty of Tripoli, and in that, and this treaty is approved by the entire Senate that was present on that day. And this statement says, President puts it forward, approved by the Senate unanimously, as the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on a Christian religion, as it has in itself no character of an enmity against the laws and religion or tranquility of Muslim men. And it goes on. It's very clear. There's a separation of church and state. We don't have the right to judge or question other people's faith. As long as they're not harming us, it's America. That's all I want to say.
Very good. I'm very proud to say that I had no idea any of this was going on until David told me about it this afternoon. I don't get on Facebook either, so ignorance is bliss. I think that's all I got.
I appreciate the opportunity to address it. I took the photo, and I guess everybody knows that now. I took the photo, I posted it Saturday night. I had been fishing all afternoon. I came back to my truck, and there is a prayer service there with a group of Muslims. I posted the photo. I clearly stated in the photo that it's the first time I've seen this in Wakulla County. Now, it's not the first time I've ever seen it. I was in the Navy. I've been all over the world. I've lived in Muslim countries. I've seen plenty of Muslim prayer services, much greater size than what I saw Saturday night. I've been in Muslim countries where the prayers were broadcast in speakers across the city. So, you know, I don't want you to think that I'm just a little Wakulla boy that's never been out of here, and so I was just shocked. But it's the first time I saw it in Wakulla County. I took the photo, and I just posted it just as that. I didn't say anything negative, no indictment against them, nothing derogatory against their religion, did not make a sound while they were in prayer, did not infringe upon their rights. I clearly support the Constitution. I clearly support the First Amendment to the Constitution. I made that post. Now, when other people make comments on Facebook, those people own those comments. I do not own those comments. Now, there were positive comments that were made from a religious standpoint, from a secular standpoint, and somehow there are people out there that want me to own the negative comments, but I don't own the positive comments. I'm not sure where that comes from. My point, I did answer when someone asked me my reason for posting the photo. I answered just like I did here tonight. It was something unusual I had never seen. I shared it with the community. We went further on. It's all still on Facebook. I made sure I left that there so it would stand the test of time, and I'm not hiding anything. I clearly stated in there that I don't feel that it's my right, my obligation from the government or as an individual to censor the comments of other people or to even condemn the comments. And here's why. Because the First Amendment, the very First Amendment that gives those Muslim gentlemen the ability to pray and gives each of us the ability to pray or not pray, also gives each of us freedom of speech. So there are people in the community tonight that want me to condemn that and trample on someone's freedom of speech while we allow the freedom of prayer out there. Those go hand in hand. And so anyone that knows me knows that that is not my heart. Those negative comments do not come from me. Those negative comments are not a reflection on me. If anyone wants to use that politically, then that's nothing more than that. It's political. It's nothing about me, and I stand by the things that I said, and I stand by the things that I do.
May I respond, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Great, thank you. And I wish I remembered the name of the person during the Second World War that said this, and I believe his name began with Martin, but I think he may have been a minister on top of everything else. And he wrote this pretty famous thing. It said, you know, when I first came for the Jews, I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't do anything. When I came for the communists, I wasn't a communist, so I didn't do anything. And he went down this few different segments that were being rounded up. And then he said, and I didn't speak up. Each one of these times, I didn't speak up. And when they came for me, there was no one to speak up for me. And what I'm saying is that, and I don't know social media, I know that when you have a Facebook page, it's your Facebook page, and you're not responsible for the other people's statements. They have free speech. But when that free speech gets ugly, I think that you're not censoring. You're just standing up, in this case, for our American Muslims that weren't doing anything wrong at all except exercising their religious right. And I think that was my statement.
I appreciate that, and I'm familiar with that quote. And I did clearly make the comment that I support their right to worship who they choose and how they choose. And so, once again, do not try to pigeonhole me in someone who does not care and someone who will not stand up for constitutional rights, because I will. I clearly support the right for people to speak. We do not have the freedom of speech unless everyone has it. If someone agrees with you and they say things that are pleasant to you, you don't need a freedom of speech to hear those things because you already agree with them. The freedom of speech comes into place when you hear things that are not desirable or hateful or mean, and we can agree on those things. But the freedom of speech allows even those things to be said. Because if the government gets into the role where they can decide who says what and when, that means that we can censor anything and we can stand against anything. And I've made it very clear that I do not condone anything negative that was stated there.
So I'd like to say one more thing to that, and then I'm not going to keep on going back and forth. So when these negative comments are, and let's go further than negative comments, let's go into hate speech. When this starts appearing, I think especially, I think we look at our elected officials to hold the high moral ground. And when you see that happening, I think there's an obligation to step forward and say, hey, listen, this is America. People have the right to do what they, but not let it fester up and boil up until you're pushed on, why did you do this? But that's what I think. I think we have to speak up and defend the people that most need to be defended.
Interestingly enough, Heather, do you remember when I was going to use that quote? When we were talking about the wetlands? She says, really? You're going to compare the wetlands to the Holocaust? So she advised me not to use the quote. But I did read everything. I don't think Ralph, well, I know Ralph didn't say anything offensive on any of his quotes. I do understand your point, though.
Yeah.
And Howard, I would challenge you. I hear what you're saying, that we need to stand up. Can you tell me with all honesty and a clean conscience that you've never heard anyone stand there at that podium and say anything hateful and sat silent and not done anything about it?
The only hate speech I've heard in this room.
I said hateful. I didn't say hate speech.
Hateful?
Hateful.
Difference. People have the freedom to say, people have the freedom to be uncivil.
I agree with you.
We, as elected officials, don't have that. I don't think that expectation of our community doesn't expect us to be uncivil.
And I don't think anyone has accused me of being uncivil. I certainly have not said anything that's unfriendly, disrespectful, intolerant. What I do find interesting is some folks in the community are using intolerant methods to attack someone that they feel has been intolerant. Right? Does that make sense?
I'm not sure what you're saying, but...
If we're going to be tolerant, once again, it's kind of like the free speech issue. If someone agrees with you, you don't have to show tolerance for them because you already agree. Tolerance comes when there's a differing opinion. Someone feels different than you. It may be completely wrong, it may be crazy, it may be mean, it may be hateful, but tolerance comes when we respect the diversity of opinion, even if we find it distasteful and it's different than ours. And so I call on everyone to show tolerance in these regards. Now, I'll tell you that I am glad I posted the photo, and let me tell you why I'm glad. There was obviously a need for a conversation. You have been very vocal in the community to have a conversation regarding race issues. Very, very clear that there's a need to have a similar conversation here. I simply posted a photo, nothing more than that. I didn't say anything negative. I didn't spin it in any way. But this photo has revealed that there are difficult feelings out there on both sides. And so what better opportunity for us to discover that and find that there's a need to have a conversation. We can act like it never happened, and we can not discuss it, and we can say that Ralph is the bad guy because other people say hateful things, or we can discuss it. We can bring it out. We can talk about it. That's what I choose to do.
And I would urge you to hold a workshop and put that on the agenda.
We certainly had a lot of discussion about it tonight.
Yes, we did amongst ourselves, though.
Very good. That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, Howard, I have a question to ask you. Are you in favor of moving in God? Are you in favor of removing God from our sign behind us?
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
I asked you a question.
Yes, I asked you questions many times. You don't respond to me. Now, what is the purpose of your question?
It's the purpose to establish whether you are the people of Wakulla County are a God-fearing group of people. They believe in this word here that Ralph put on the wall, "In God we trust." I represent the people of Wakulla County. I support "In God we trust." Do you support "In God we trust"?
I don't support "In God we trust" in our government. Do you get the difference between having religion in government and separation of church and state?
We're not in a government. We're in a government of Wakulla County, people who live here, who vote here, who believe that "In God we trust" should be on our wall. So I'm not in a United States government. I'm in a Wakulla County government who believe in God we trust. I believe in God we trust. I support those people.
Which God are you referring to?
The God in heaven that represents all the people of this world.
Could he be a Muslim God? Could he be a Buddhist
Could be a
God?
Muslim
Could he be
God.
a sun god of the Aztecs?
It is.
Well, fine. If that's the general God you want to believe.
Yeah, the Channel 6 is out there, guys.
Do you wish to remove in God we trust that everybody may support? All faiths may support in God we
I
trust.
voted against putting it up there. Don't you remember? It was a 4-to-1 vote.
Well, very good.
Richard, you all ready for my discussion now?
Bring it on, buddy.
I want to talk about street lights.
Okay, you talk about wetlands instead.
All right. What I wanted to talk about was there's two roads that's in Sopchoppy that one of them is where Indian Summers meets 319. I'm sorry, where Indian Summers comes out to 375. Plus another one is where Curtis Mills comes out to Highway 98. The issue that both of those have is in the early morning hours and in the night. You know, there's no light there whatsoever. Even the people that live on those streets are having a hard time finding where to turn in. Not only that, the people who live on those streets are having a hard time finding where the stop sign is at to stop. At the intersection of the intersection of Curtis Mills and 98, there was already a couple of years ago a fellow worker of mine who was on his way to work and who was killed on his way to work at that particular intersection due to the very reason of there was poor light, you know. And there's been near similar incidents has happened since then at both of them. At the other intersection is where Indian Summers and Highway 375 come together. There's been some near collisions there for the same reason. So I've talked to Brent and I've talked to Cleve about Duke Energy putting one street light at the end of each of those lights, and Duke Energy requires that the county agree to pay for those lights, which is like $40 a month per light. What I'm petitioning to the commission tonight is for us to consider to pay that $40 for each of those lights per month for the sake of safety, not just convenience, but for the sake of safety for the many people that live at both of those intersections.
Only downside of that, Richard, is it kind of opens Pandora. The cameras are, for some reason, not recording this, but it does open up a Pandora's box. Everybody's going to want a street light. Because we went through this at the Committee of Traffic Safety team, Brent. Right, we had a gentleman come up. They wanted one in Wakulla Gardens at an intersection. We said, well, the county doesn't. We don't have any street lights, do we?
Other than the ones right around here.
We pay for a couple of them, so it would need to be a really super. I'm not going to dismiss it, but you know, the implications are that if we pay for these two on this intersection, then we need to pay for one in River Sink on all those roads. You know what I mean?
What other
at least some criteria.
What other avenue do we have to light those intersections to provide public safety? Whatever. Duke Energy is not going to put a light there unless we, the county, agree to pay the money.
Understood.
So if we don't agree to pay, what other avenue do the citizens in those communities have to provide light?
As far as the stopping part, I can tell you we did this at MLK and Spring Creek Highway. They make this diamond, right, Brent? They could put a bigger stop sign there, number one, that has a real high reflectivity. That made a big difference down there, I think. Right, Brent? Never mind.
Well, I agree with looking at all the alternatives, such as higher reflection and also possibly a solar light. Just that we as a county could do, and it would be our light rather than paying somebody $40 a month or $80 a month in this case.
Anything that would provide light to indicate the presence of those intersections where they start and stop. You know, I'm not trying to lead the county into spending money every month. It's simply just trying to provide some public safety for those.
I would think getting together with Cleve and Brent, hashing that out would be a good idea.
And it'd be nice, really, to have some sort of criteria that we could apply equally. Maybe if it's a major collector and a minor, or arterial, blah, 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 whatever, that we could look at each person that came and says, I want one in front of my house to light the street, but all they really want is a security light. They just don't want to pay for it. So you know, maybe some criteria.
Well, at both these intersections, there's not a house around.
I
It's
understand.
just- It's a T.
Very familiar.
Okay.
Gary, you have another item.
David, several years ago, I made a statement that this is the only county, I'll call it a city, because we don't have a city, we have a county. This is the only place I know that doesn't have Christmas lights coming down the roadway. We need to have the Christmas spirit. We need to have Christmas lights coming down this roadway, you know. And during Christmas, there's nothing. It looks like we don't care.
So, turn the cameras back on.
We do care.
It has,
that's something that goes past me.
we do care, but it hasn't shown up yet.
Well,
what can we do?
Well, number one is what we've talked about with our park services is putting some decorations in Azalea Park. That's the only area that we actually control or own. The rest of it is state right-of-way. And we don't have any power poles there. They're not our power poles, but we'll look into that and see. But understand that's very costly. In the past, we haven't had the money in the budget to pay for Christmas decorations.
If you do look at it, try to make it candy canes or snowmen or something like that.
Yeah, it will be neutral. But yeah, we're going to start at Azalea Park, and then we'll work out. But understand it's very expensive. We'll have to buy those over the years, but it's something.
That's fine, but we need to make a start.
And we are, and we've already talked to our park staff about that for Azalea Park, and then we'll start small, but we'll get there.
That's fine.
I wanted to give some insight on that. I don't know, before I was doing this, I was on the city commission Stop Shoppy for 8 years. Well, everybody asked, well, why does Stop Shoppy have lights and the county doesn't? But one thing that Stop Shoppy did is it cost $300 per pole to have the actual connection. That Stop Shoppy had to pay Duke Energy $300 per pole to have the connection to plug into the lights. Just those few lights for a few blocks in the middle of Stop Shoppy cost Stop Shoppy around $10,000 just for those ornaments. Now whenever we did buy those, I was on there when we did. We were replacing some that were about 15 years old. So it was not a every year expense to have to spend that $10,000. But the upfront initial cost of setting it in place is a pretty big amount of money. But once you initially have the upfront cost and once it's initially done, the succeeding years, and as long as you take care of your equipment, it's not as much. But what I would propose is for there to be a group out there that would form and actually hold fundraisers in order for the groups to raise the money in order to do it. Because you know,
I would do the same thing. If there's anybody, everybody, or whoever who would like to see this, support this, to start a fundraising effort to put Christmas lights on 319, you can call myself or you could call Richard or anybody here. But I think it's something that we need. It's a statement for our county. If you go to the town, it's near Tifton there, they have a Christmas spirit in that town that's just unbelievable. And I can't place the town right now, but
that little stretch that cost $10,000 to do was about like from here to the commission complex. In order to do the middle through Crawfordville, you'd probably look at 4 or 5 times that. So it'd be a pretty big figure to initially do it. But
well, as David says, we can start. We don't have to put it from 267 to 98. We can just start small.
I didn't have city commission for 8 years, but I had Cleve's job for 8 years. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, Cleve's job.
Yes, and adjourn. Thank you all for coming out.